Okay, welcome everyone to our live English live with Jeremy. Jeremy is one of live English teachers, and please, Jeremy, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about why you got into teaching.
Okay, well, originally I'm from England, so my accent's English, but I lived in Hong Kong for a long time and I worked in a business there. And most people in Hong Kong, they speak Chinese and many of them don't speak English so well. So everybody was asking me to teach them English. It's just how it is, the situation. And in the mid 80s, when I was there, we wanted to develop our business across the border in China when the borders were originally opening. And somebody brought us there to try and do it, but perhaps not with very good intentions. And a doctor that we met who was living there and working there, he actually said, he took me aside and said to me, this guy who's bringing you here doesn't look very good, but I can help you. And the condition for helping you is please help us during the summer, bring some English teachers from Hong Kong, and we'll do some voluntary program because we all need to learn English for the future here. And that's how it started. That's how I got into it.
Amazing, amazing. But Jeremy, you are a little bit of a globetrotter. You travel the world. So when we take lessons with you, it's like traveling the world. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I grew up in Britain and I studied in Britain. And after university, I came to Israel for a year on a kibbutz as a volunteer. And when I went back to Britain, I was so bored I couldn't stay there. And the first opportunity to get out.
When you start traveling, it's difficult, huh?
Well, you can't stop really once you travel. So I spent a long time in Hong Kong and after that in the far east of Russia, in Azerbaijan. Most people never heard of it. It's called the Autonomous Jewish Region of the Far East. And after that, after being frozen to death for 4 years, it's really cold over there. We warmed up in South America and Bolivia for another 12 years.
Wow.
And I helped a good friend start a school there called Cambridge College, where I taught physics and chemistry, which I really like to do. And it's an English-speaking school, and they didn't know the Cambridge University examination system for schools or their English system. And so the school director took me aside and said, what's that all about? And I said, well, let's go to the computer and I'll show you online. And she was so amazed. And immediately we started connecting with Cambridge University exams for the students of the school. And we started using the Cambridge approach to teaching English for first certificate, advanced certificate, and so on.
All right. So for our students who are interested in taking an English exam, Jeremy is definitely the right teacher to advise you. Like, especially if you don't know what exam to take. Should you take the TOEFL, the first certificate, the IELTS? Like, what advice can you give to these students who debate whether to take this exam or the other exam?
Right. Well, I'm quite familiar with the three main types of English exams that are used internationally. The IELTS is very famous, used by Cambridge University, as is what they call the English Examination Suite, which is, there are several examinations you can take by Cambridge, the first certificate, advanced certificate, and proficiency tests. And then the TOEFL examination, which is if you want to go to America to immigrate or to attend university or postgraduate studies, then the TOEFL is probably a good choice because it's really American. The examination is long, it's 4.5 hours, which a lot of examinations are, so you've got to be comfortable sitting with it. But like all the examinations, you can use American English or the British style English because they're very open to all these accents.
So even if you're taking the Cambridge exam, you can ask to have American English on it?
Yeah, they don't mind you using American English and American spellings. The only thing is once you choose which one you want to use, whether it's British or American, then you better keep to it during the examination.
Okay.
If you switch around, they don't get so excited about it. But they're very open-minded.
So what about the IELTS? Is it a difficult exam? Is it what are the advantages and and the disadvantages of the IELTS?
All three examinations, IELTS, Cambridge, and TOEFL, they're all rather similar in their difficulties. They all go through four, what they call pillars of English education: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And so in that sense, they're all rather similar. And you can see the grades all relate to each other and to the Common European Framework of Reference.
So A1, A2, B1, B2, and C1 and C2. All right.
So the advantages of the IELTS is that you can take, like the TOEFL, a general examination. You won't fail it. They just give you a grade between 0 and 9 that relates to the Common European Framework or the Cambridge system of exams or TOEFL. The only problem with it, like the TOEFL, is it only lasts for 2 years. You don't get a lifelong certificate.
Okay. Okay. So we've had some students who wanted to emigrate to Australia, for example, and they had to take the IELTS. So in that case, it's fine. It's hopefully you do all your paperwork within the 2 years.
Right. That's right. And the advantage of the Cambridge exams, like First Certificate, Advanced, and Proficiency, is that you get a certificate that lasts your whole life. It means they trust you somehow.
Right.
Whereas IELTS and TOEFL, they worry after 2 years, did you not keep your English level? Did you fall back a bit? So they don't want to guarantee it afterwards.
Well, you know what, they're right, because if you don't practice your English, you're more likely to lose a little bit of it.
Right, perhaps. But if you emigrate to Australia, for example,
Right.
you may not need it afterwards because you're going to practice English every day there because that's the normal language people use.
Absolutely.
But you might
Okay.
even gain an Australian accent while you're at it.
Right.
I know our youngest daughter now, when she speaks, it's like she's an Australian. Because she's lived there about 10, 11 years already. So
Right, right. Okay. So now you have a lot of experience teaching. You're teaching in classrooms and with live English teaching online. What do you feel are the main differences between teaching online and teaching in a more traditional way?
okay, well, online is just the comfort matter. I mean, for the students and the teacher, because you're at home or you're at your office, you don't have to worry about going somewhere. You don't have to worry about the way you dress or the weather or anything or being late or whatever, because you just switch on the computer and there you are. It's amazing.
Right.
And you're not worrying about books and let's turn to page 59 or whatever. You have materials that you can very easily share with people and so on. So it's really a very comfortable and very relaxed experience, I think.
Do you enjoy it?
I enjoy it a lot, too much, in fact. I mean, online is just such a wonderful thing to be doing. I mean, with COVID-19, a lot of people are using online.
Yes.
And I've talked with many people. Some are really comfortable with it. And some wish they could go back to the normal ways of life. So everybody has a different experience with it. But I just love it. I mean, online, what's better than this? And
Right.
your own home. That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah. So you were talking earlier that you were teaching science and you have you have a science degree, I think, from Cambridge, right? So how does it come to your lessons with your students?
Some people, they want to talk about science, and mostly it's because scientific terminology, or what we call jargon, is not easily communicated to other people. So they want to talk about improving the method of expressing themselves with other people to practice. And when I studied at the University of Wales, in fact, it's a long time ago, they also teach us an English course to be able to express yourself, especially to non-scientific people. And most of the kind of things we talk about, and you know, people who like science get passionate about things. We start talking about Einstein's relativity or explanation of gravity, which is really blows people's minds away, and a lot of other things too. And
well, one second. Now is your time. If you are watching this live, or if you're watching the replay, if you have any scientific question for Jeremy, please put them in the comment.
Okay. So I find a lot of people, they just love to talk about these ideas, and they also like to talk about hot topics like global warming. Is CO2 really the problem? Is the world really getting warmer? You know, because there's a lot of scientific viewpoints that might differ from the
Right.
your ideas, you know, the
Yeah.
ideas
i-
that compete.
in the study box, we put a lot of different articles, and some are about science topics, and we try to put articles that are interesting for a broad range of students, not just people who are in the field, because it is an interesting topic to talk about global warming, to talk about quantum physics, and and having the ability to discuss these topics with you, I think is an amazing experience. How do you integrate these articles to your teaching?
It depends on the person, what you can really discuss with them. Some people, for example, they talk about global warming and they just believe everything they're taught, like on CNN News or whatever it is. You know, and I don't want to make any problems for them or challenge them too much. I might ask a few questions just to see if they're open to new ideas or not. And some people really are, because they don't like being told what's true or not by the news media, and they find there's a lot of questions there. So I just take it as it comes. And some people really enjoy it a lot, because they say, well, I agree with you, but I can't find many people that share that viewpoint. So it's really great talking about these things, because not
Right.
everybody agrees about global warming and so on.
So so the English lessons are like a good conversation. Like you go in depth with the topic, and you try to find a different angle to what the mainstream media would say.
Right, because I find a lot of people are passionate about these things, you know, really passionate, emotional. And I notice when people get passionate and get emotional, it's amazing how their English improves when they do that. It's actually quite shocking, in fact. You know, if you talk about something very logical and reasonable, sometimes they stumble and they have errors. But when they get passionate, you get surprised, because it brings out the best in people. And it's something quite curious for me to see. So if I can get people passionate and emotional, it's really helpful. And I just enjoy seeing people use their ability so well when they do it.
That's interesting. But I think also when you learn more and better when you're interested in what you're doing. So like I remember when I was a kid, you know, we would open our book, page 62, and would read the text that was completely boring for our when we were, you know, in junior high school. We didn't care about the topic that were on the books, and now, you know, like with the lesson we have with you and other teachers at Live English, we really work on topics that matter to you. So if you get a little bit excited, that's all good, because it means that you're going to be motivated and you're going to learn even better.
Yeah, it's really true. I know myself, when I try to speak in other languages, if sometimes I get stuck, but I'm very passionate about or emotional about something, I really get the point across somehow. It brings out the best in me too. I notice it very clearly.
Okay. Now, do you can you tell us a little bit about your business experience? Do you have any like do you have any business background as well?
Well, you know, I never studied about business, but when I was in my early 20s and back in Britain after living in Israel on the kibbutz for a while, then, you know, I was looking for another job outside of Britain. And the first job that came up was this job in Hong Kong to help start a business, really from nothing, in fact. So, um, first few years were rather difficult. I didn't speak Chinese, and I recognized from the beginning that the people in Hong Kong, the main problems that they have, they don't like English people or people from Britain because of the history of Hong Kong.
Ah,
And you know, they treat you very roughly, because British people get into Hong Kong business and government positions very easily. But I was starting out right from the rock bottom here, and not having any experience in business, it was kind of interesting for me, because it was in Chinese medicine, which also I didn't know very much about. I had to catch up on things very quickly. But after a few years, and I did learn Chinese, Cantonese, and not many British people do actually. They learn Mandarin if they're going to learn Chinese. And people were so shocked. They'd stop and listen to whatever you said because they couldn't believe there's a foreigner speaking our language. What is this? And it was so interesting.
So
And
you earned their respect.
yeah, not only earned their respect, but I also read a lot of books about how successful business people develop their skills, like Dale Carnegie's books, how McDonald's developed from nothing, Ray Kroc, he started all these things, and a lot of other businesses too. So I learned from them and I started to apply those same methods. And another interesting thing is Hong Kong can be quite corrupt. And I decided from the beginning not to do that, not to get involved in that. And people trusted us because of it.
Amazing.
I educated a whole sales team, and we really developed the business to such a nice level. And then every month we'd have a special dinner meeting with them one evening. We go out to a fancy restaurant and I'd explain things to them and answer their questions and difficulties and how things were for them. And we really did something good. It was a fantastic business in the end.
Amazing, amazing. So now when you have students who are like, I don't know, CEOs or sales managers or I don't know, financial, I don't know, what do you say?
Financial wizards.
Yes, yes. How do you approach, what's your approach with the lessons?
It depends on what they're asking. Mostly they just want to improve their communications abilities. And if it's in business, then I can talk about business with them. If it's about borrowing money from the banks or financial matters, I can help them because, I've experienced all of those things. I had to go to banks and borrow money and deal with finance and deal with paying back loans and all those things.
Right. So, you have the experience.
Hands-on experience, not always the most successful, but it worked out in the end. So it's kind of interesting.
Okay. Do you feel it's like what do you feel about the difference between teaching kids in the classrooms like you were doing and teaching adults like you do at Live English?
When you're teaching kids in a classroom, one of the major problems you have is discipline. How to control the kids from jumping up and down, running around, throwing things, all the stuff that they normally get into. And it took me some years to actually do it quite well in school. And I put on a little bit of entertainment, and I had all the things ready before the class. So I put a couple of boards up with the main information, and if they did it, then they could get their homework done in class time. And so the kids used to run into the classroom in order to get everything done quickly and finish their homework by the end of the class, so they wouldn't have to bring it home with them. And it was kind of interesting to see how they did it. With adults, you don't have any of these problems whatsoever because they're there because they want to learn something. And that's an entirely different situation.
Right.
It's so much easier, for me at least.
The adults want to learn, but it's a little bit difficult for some of them to find time to do homework, to read articles, I mean, do you feel that people come prepared at the lessons? Have they done the assignments you gave them, or
sometimes they've looked through it, sometimes they haven't. Now they've even had a lesson with someone who's driving his car to work. So he had his phone in front of the steering wheel, and when he was turning and looking right and left, and you could hear all the things going on in the car. But that was his best time of the day while he was driving. And I asked him, please focus on the road and don't look at the phone.
Don't ask too difficult questions then.
Exactly. But I think a lot of people, they enjoy the lessons. And because they enjoy it, they're learning through that process. And I see people really improving, from one lesson to the next. It's quite amazing, actually, for me. And I just enjoy that the most, seeing people improve. And they
Absolutely. Do you have a story to tell us from a student who really made a good impression on you?
Yeah, I have one of the students, and this student continues to have a lot of lessons with me. I don't know if you know who it is.
Is he from Italy?
Yes, exactly.
I think I know.
And actually, he came to visit a year ago, and we had a really good time. We spent some time together, and we had breakfast together. walked around the city a little bit and so on. And we became very good friends through it. And in the beginning, he was always struggling looking up words and things. And nowadays, he doesn't do it. He just talks. And sometimes when he doesn't have the right word, he'll use an Italian word. But because I understand Spanish quite well, then usually I can understand what he's saying. And I say the English word back to him. So we have a good time together. And we became really good friends as a result of it.
Excellent. I know that, I mean, because we work online, we have very few opportunities to meet in real with our students, but it happens. And when it does, it's really, it's really nice. It's a nice experience.
It's an incredible experience because there he is having breakfast and we're talking and walking around the city and everything. And he's only using English. Something which originally he wouldn't be able to do so well. So this was a fantastic experience for me, actually.
Yes, yeah, that's really when we're happy with the job we're doing, and we know we've done a good job then.
You know, the best thing I see is when I see former students, and I see a lot of them because we're friends on Facebook or other social media, and I see how well they're doing in their lives. They're all becoming famous people, actually. In fact, one of them, you know, he's now in America. But he's one of the students from Bolivia. But I really feel he may go into politics in the future, which is very good. He's producing his own YouTube videos.
Wow.
So it's called Reflections because of his experiences in America. He's doing a master's degree there. And yeah, I'm amazed to see how people develop and grow through all these experiences. And for me, it's
and English is a key skill. So really, it makes an impact on our students' lives.
It does. And when I see them speaking or hear them, what they're saying, it's, wow, he sounds like a natural English speaker. So incredible.
Okay, well, Jeremy, we could talk about our students for hours and hours, but we have to go. But thank you so much for this interview. That was so interesting. I love hearing about our students and how they succeed above just the English. The English is really the key for a lot of personal development. And I love the fact that you talk about to talk to your students about science and about finance and all these topics, and that you try to make them, like, to allow them to progress and they care about the topic. That's really that's very good. Anyway, so thank you all for joining us for this live. If you have any question for Jeremy, please put them in the comments. And next week, we're going to have our teacher, Shane. Shane's going to be on the live. It's going to be a little bit later. It's going to be in the evening because Shane is actually on the other side of the earth. He's in South America, so we're not going to make him get up in the middle of the night. So I'm looking forward to it. And thanks again, Jeremy, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.